Hello, everybody. We are kicking off our amazing series here of webinars over here at Livespace. As always, I'd like to give a couple of minutes for those people to get logged in, to get settled down, to get those notebooks ready, like I have today. I think we're in for a fantastic bit of content here. And David, what can I say? Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. As you probably saw from when you registered for the webinar, David from Surfe, CEO and founder of Surfe, is here to join us. David, while we do the small talk, how are things going today? Where are you joining us from?
So I joined from Paris, and as we shortly met in the prep room, it's crazy because I think you have a crazy snowfall in Danzig or Gdansk, right? And
yes.
It's the same here in Paris. And I think Paris is less prepared because in Paris literally it never snows, and I think Parisians, they have never seen, at least in Paris, snow, so it's very, very awkward feeling outside. Everyone is running outside and like trying to it's the first time I see snow, that first feeling. But
yes.
Okay, it's nice, it's cozy. Year-end mode, but I think for us it's 4 weeks to go. Mostly everything is in now, and we're trying to prep already for the next year. Yeah, I was on your side.
Yeah, but really, thanks for joining. Yeah, again, while we are just warming up here, people, please let us know if you can hear us okay, if you can see us, and you please drop a like. Just drop if like, are you in the snow as well today? Are you having this unexpected snow? So I'm joining from Gdańsk, Poland, where yes, we should be better prepared for snow, but the first one we got caught out as well as I said today, but while we are here, I want to really, David, again, thank you so much for your time today. It's super valuable. And just to say to everybody that basically, I was super excited when the Livespace team reached out and said that yourself and Surfe are interested in doing some content, and you wanted to talk about LinkedIn Outbound. I got personally super excited. I mean, my background is I'm very lucky to be part of the Livespace team, but doing sales for various different tech and SaaS businesses over the last 15 years. I certainly understand that this is still one of those channels, this kind of topics that we over and over again think we should be doing, but we are not quite sure if it's working. I think you've probably seen it today. A little bit of a spoiler for today's content is also that a lot of people are kind of giving up because they don't know how, but still it seems that the power is there. Would that be a good assessment of what we're going to talk about today from your side?
I think so. And I think there's even now, again, the better chance, because I think our email inboxes are swamped. All these AI SDRs kind of not making it better. I think then there's Gmail making it harder to actually get in your inbox, right? So I think LinkedIn is kind of a bit, I would say, almost back. I'm in this kind of, I would say, LinkedIn bubble. So I see every day kind of new outreach strategies, whether it's on email, whether it's on LinkedIn. And some said, and LinkedIn social selling is dead, and then cold calling is back again. So it always kind of has a renaissance, to use the French word in here.
Sure.
I would say. And I think now is even the better time to be back. But I think there is a lot of things you need to do before you reach out. I think there's at least 5 to 6 weeks prep with content, being in the right network, what to share, show you as an expert, your profile, and everything around. So it's not just about the messaging piece only. And we have done a lot of LinkedIn. I mean, we have even started getting our first customers not on LinkedIn, on Facebook, actually. Which is also very odd because I think Facebook groups, I don't know if you still use Facebook groups in France, it's a thing, and a lot of people still use it, but we are still active and getting very good leads from actually both platforms.
Okay, I mean, we are going to dive into this today, and we'll try to get a lot of that. My role today is to get a lot of all that information I can out of you. But I know one of the things we want to start with, which is basically, to ask our lovely audience as people are joining more and more now, which is we're gonna kick things off with a survey, with a poll, and I'd love to ask the audience, like, what is your current feeling about your and your company's LinkedIn outreach right now? Are you actually getting success with connecting with customers? Are you getting success with reaching out to new leads? We'd love to know your feedback. So please give that a click if you can, because we'll know where to take the conversation today.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I'm so happy that we are discussing this today is because I think that LinkedIn is something that we get to see both sides of the sword, so to speak. We want to sell, we want to use it to prospect and find customers, but every single day we are also receiving those messages, and they influence also, I think, our impression of if LinkedIn works or not, and a lot of those questions about, are we going to get lost in the crowd? And I will ask Maciej if he can pull up those slides. I want to just show people some examples of what I'm talking about, because I think this is quite important. And there's two things that I would like to show here. And the first thing is that we are getting, it feels like we are getting overloaded with messages on LinkedIn. And one of the things I actually did before we prepped for today's is I realized that still, in comparison to some of the other channels, it's not so crazy. I don't know, LinkedIn feels so direct. But one of the things we're seeing is, and I took these from just like, if you can see the dates, these are real live. These are messages I got over the last couple of weeks, which is that basically they lack a little bit of personalization. And the other thing that I noticed is one of my first points I'd love to talk about today, which is also we are preconceiving them as not being legitimate. Yeah, we are all a little bit defensive when it comes to LinkedIn messages. Yeah. So, and then the second thing that I found, which is really interesting about LinkedIn, and
an example before, right? So,
yep.
When you go back and, for instance, on the right message, there's so many words like development, Excels, Q&A, testing, web, mobile, app. So all in one sentence, which is crazy. So for me, I already get a headache when I just have a first view on it. And also the one on the left, which is very short, actually I cut nowadays the how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. I think it needs to fit in a good conversation if you're asking these. But if it's your first message and you don't know the prospect, I don't know. I often cut this and directly ask a question, for instance, which can be also a bit weird or odd, or which can be related to content they've posted, right? But try to kind of cut fluff, I would say, and also try to cut like a lot of expert words to not appear complex, always appear simple, right? Because we are simple-minded, we talk in simple languages to understand, and I think that's the main things when you should start.
Yeah, and like you said, that you have this polar opposites. You've got someone that is, like, for me, the key thing that kind of sadly points out with both of them is that they lack anything really about me. You know, apart from my name, it's one is like we provide, and that's one element that always kind of it makes me question the authenticity of it. But then on the second side, it's like you said, the other element is, can you just get to the point? Like, I understand why we are here. We are adults. It's LinkedIn. You're not messaging me on Facebook Messenger, for example. I don't need you to warm me up sometimes. But then, David, I want to show you this, and I'm really interested today what you think about that, which is, I don't know what is the cause here, but what surprises me, I picked these two messages up where I replied to the messages. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them was asking for more qualifications. Some was saying that, you know, I don't need it. But what really surprises me a little bit about LinkedIn and the approach these days is that then that's it. That this is not a bad screenshot by me. There's literally no other messages. They didn't reply. They didn't say thank you. They didn't objection handle. So I also get this kind of impression that in LinkedIn we are just too fast. And we you know, everybody wants to play the volume game. It's like, I'll send 10,000.
Exactly. Like, it's the same like in the dating game. It's the funnel conversion. That's all the number one problem all these dating apps have. You can easily swipe left and right. and then have probably 20 people in your funnel, but who are you really texting consistently with, right? So it's the same. Often they use automations, meaning, I don't know, a service is maybe taking it for them or they take it themselves, meaning the campaign is stopped once you reply. They need to jump in manually again, but as they have probably burst out 100 of messages, they don't have the time actually to reply to them. And that's where it already fails, because you try to have this shotgun tactic, but it only you only have such a limited time to actually take care of the relationship part. And that's where they then don't come off with a second, a third message, right? Because the first one is easy to automate.
Yeah. And I think that's why, again, like, I got super excited today that we can talk about this. And I mean, now is the nice time. Now that we've got the room, I can see. By the way, thank you everyone for filling out that poll. And I'm seeing some people are joining from Marta's joining from Portugal. I'm only that little bit jealous, Marta. But now what we get to
Germany also. Someone from Germany.
Yes.
I would love.
Yeah, and there's people saying that there is no snow in Warsaw. I need to find out why am I in a snowstorm right now?
Yeah.
But David, while we're here and we've got through that, please can you let's go back to the beginning, and please tell us a little bit about Surfe, a little bit about yourself. When did you start? Where are you at? And what I would love to know is why did you start Surfe? What was the problem that you saw on the market?
So yeah, hi to everyone once again who just joined as well. David, have a French name. We're a French company, but I'm actually German. Hence the question for Germany. I think it's a story of my life, having a French name, living in the city since 4 years, and I don't speak the language that well. But yeah, basically, what is Surfe about? We started it at the end of our studies because we had the problem of getting prospects from LinkedIn into our HubSpot CRM. So we did customer discovery for our university. We needed to chat with 100 people. We have been in the US at that time, so we knew no one, meaning we went on LinkedIn to see some people, and then had the problem of getting it in a smart and efficient way. We tried with Zapier and everything was out there, but it was lacking, was inaccurate, etc. So me, as a business student, I just said, okay, there's an end of the tunnel. I do an all-nighter and I fix this. And Omar, which is my co-founder and the engineer in the company, he said, no way, I'm doing that for 100 contacts, 20 fields each contact manually. So while you're doing that and we are covered, I try my best way with a shortcut. And this shortcut basically was Surfe, or LeadJet was our first name actually. We shared it with our colleagues, we uploaded it to Product Hunt, and then everything went quite quick. From a side hustle we thought, it went to then 1 million in ARR within under 2 years. Just without a sales team, the two of us, self-service and product-led growth tactics. And now we are in the fourth year, surpassing the fourth year, having 40 people, not just doing a LinkedIn and CRM integration. We actually find you contacts and accounts. So we have access to 20 databases. You probably know Apollo and all these, which we put in a waterfall, but not only for contact details, also for intent and insights data. We have our own platform for this now. And what we want is that every rep, SDR and BDR spends most of their time on the phone, or on the relationship, whether it's video or phone, and all the manual steps, which was causing 70%, finding what's my ICP, whom to reach out, etc., to cut that. And that's where we're basically helping. And this is going very well for us this year. We're approaching 2.5x growth, what we did, which is really nice, and happy to be able to do also more partnerships. I think we got going a partnership as well recently. So it's still not the full native, but with Zapier connection, you can actually use Surfe plus Livespace, and and we started doing at the beginning Outbound on, as I said, Facebook, where we get the first 50 customers from, a simple group where we just said we're looking for beta testers, and then we converted these beta testers, and then we went on LinkedIn and had a lot of different tactics. Yeah.
Was there before, because we're gonna see some of those tactics in a bit, and we're gonna get a little bit more of that insight from you. I'm super interested. Do you remember the moment when you were kind of converting from Facebook to LinkedIn? Was that kind of like because you realized that the audience was there? How did that come around that you kind of, when did you first kind of move to LinkedIn, and how were those first experiences?
I mean, for us, it was natural, right? We are LinkedIn tool integration. So we need to, our customer base is on LinkedIn, right?
Sure,
so for us, it was a bit easier. So we really focused on that LinkedIn group before, but then we first had like problems in communication. We are not active on LinkedIn. We don't do social selling. But then we said, hey, it's especially here for the contact creation and simplifying the logging in your CRM. But yeah, it was for us basically day one, because our customers are there, because our product is there. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think when I've got more and more familiar with, especially like this sales tech, marketing tech industry, I mean, the true thing we are trying to do, like me, even as a sales manager, and I think you've probably experienced this the same as well, which is when we lose 60, I mean, you talked about the number, 70% of time was lost with manual data entry and manual searching. I mean, think about the fact that, you know, that means that you could think about getting that time back for your SDRs, your BDMs. I mean, it makes so much sense, not to mention being better targeted as your product has evolved. But what I'm thinking, David, before I kind of probably step on some toes of the great content you've suggested, I think you've got some best practices for us today that we can, because what I really like for the audience. And by the way, just so you know, everybody, we've got a nice questions tab in here in the app. So please drop your questions. I'll ask them at the end to David. But if Mathieu wouldn't mind popping up those slides for us, I'd love to hear about some of those best practices from your perspective, David. What you want to share with us today?
Yeah, I think the first best practice was so when we did the exchange at our university in the US, one of the first things was we went to decision makers, and we in particular looked at conferences. So we looked at conferences, are there in our ICP, who was speaking there? And then we looked at past conferences, because we can't afford to go to all these conferences and buy a ticket, right? So we reached out to these speakers and said, hey, I saw you were speaking at XYY, and I saw you were talking about this topic. I was so interested, but I just arrived now in the US, and I had a question around this. So have you 15 minutes maybe to answer that question? And then you tackle them by ego, because who comes after a conference as your speaker online back to you and ask you for that, right? So then often persons are like, okay, ego driven, I want to answer them. Someone was really actually interested in my speech. And then I got with a CEO from Best Buy, for instance. It's a $10 billion company. He jumped with me on a call, and other companies back then for that research, which was amazing, because I was just a student, right? And a CEO of a $10 billion company is taking a chat with me, which was amazing to see. And that kind of sequence was very, very well working. And I still do believe it's working well today, because not a lot of people come to you, to your topic after a conference, right?
Yeah. Yep. No. I mean, I think it's and I think that's why I love this story and some of the other, hopefully, the practices you will share with us, is that because we need those practical tips. Yeah, I said this a lot, where we get told to be better storytellers, or we get told to be more organic or authentic, and then we don't know how. And I love this, because I'm wondering, and maybe you'll tell us or not. I'm wondering if it was on purpose or by accident. But when you talk about like the conference strategy, I think it's amazing, because why I think why it was such a great idea is because you're tapping in also to probably why those people are on stage in the first place. Is they want audience, they want network. No, it's very rare that I think these presenters go to events to just talk and then close the door. So I think it was fantastic. And it reminds me of a similar thing we did in the past, when it was around when I was in the event space, the opposite way around, which was like, when is the best time to get those really high-end speakers? Is just after they were going to launch a book, or they were just before launching the book, because they were in PR mode. So it's that little sense again of like tapping into finding a win-win even not only for you but also the audience. So no, I think that's fantastic. And what I also like about this is, like you said, I mean, LinkedIn is not only your the way that you were prospecting in the early days, but it was almost like your business card, right? You had to practice what you preach, and you got to learn as a user of your own services. I think that's fantastic as well. And I'd love to ask if, for the audience today, and I think we've got some slides here, what are the other things that you've picked up along the way? I mean, that's a great tip already, by the way. I think it was worth the snowstorm. What other advice have you got of you through looking at what you've done and maybe what your customers are doing?
Definitely. And also ask the audience, if you have an outreach idea or tactic, first that is working well for you, please share it with every one of us. And an idea you have, and maybe you didn't test yet, so feel free to share that as well, and we can maybe give some feedback on it. But I think for me, what worked very well, I mean, often decision makers are targeted, right, with emails. So they get, I don't know, hundreds of emails per day even. But end users are not so targeted. So a sales SDR or an AE, for instance, right? So what I do is, I, as a CEO, for instance, I have it also a bit easier probably, target these guys and ask them for a meeting, or one of my reps is asking for a meeting, because I want to understand if we have a solution to that problem and if they have a problem, right? So once I understood, okay, they have a problem, I try to find a decision maker, but I ask for an introduction. So I try to see in my LinkedIn network, there's different tools to check that, or I see if one of my customers has a connection. And once I asked a decision maker for an intro, often on LinkedIn in a group of then 3 people, I kind of jumped over this trust building. And once he or she answers me, I directly come up, hey, I've already talked to your team. I understood this is the problem you're having, and I think we can help you by this and that. So it's super actionable. You've gained the trust, first of all, because it's a warm intro. You've already talked to the team, so you took a lot of work from the manager itself. And you're super specific with your first message. So you shorten the deal cycle as well. This is something which works very well for us as well. Yeah.
I mean, my poor terminology of this is always like bottom up. Yeah. And I do like it. And what's super interesting there, what you've said is I've always perceived that as being like that the consequence of bottom up is actually longer sales cycles because you have to wait. But what you've just said is a super actionable tip of, do you remember would you ask that SDR for the intro? How did that go, like specifically?
No. I first check with my network if there is a decision maker who can do the warm intro. So I don't ask the SDR. I actually ask a third person, because then you have gained this trust building process. Because otherwise, if you ask the SDR, you won't have that trust building process, right? So that's super critical. You do kind of a list where you see, okay, where can I have warm intros to decision makers? And then you start the cold outreach sequence to the end users. And once there's success, you ask for the warm intro. Yeah. So
perfect.
How we do.
Makes total sense. I mean, I really with that third party intro as well, and the relevance, because I think like you said, I mean, I think I read recently, and I wonder if in LinkedIn it's any different, this old methodology of we've got like 4 to 7 seconds to win over somebody, and that's not even to get them all the way in, it's just to get them to give us another 30 seconds of attention. So those really nice like impacts of the intro, plus I've spoke to your team, I've qualified the problem. I mean, that's like a magical 7 seconds intro. So perfect takeaway.
And also at the beginning, what you always need to check is, for instance, budget. Is it the right time? Because if I already hear, no, we don't have budget, then I cut it. I deprioritize it and jump on the next. Because I think in sales, there's this famous meme like, let's book each other calls to waste each other's time. I think there was a Titanic meme,
I'm not a decision maker. I'm not like, let's waste each other's time.
Exactly. And that kills you. That kills your pipe, because it's not less qualified and everything. So always try to jump over that quickly, and be also harsh in your questions you are asking. So of course it's cool when they come back and they want to talk with you, but it's not cool if it's not relevant, right? So really be the harsh guy also as a sales guy, to ask these first questions.
I'm like I said, I'm being super selfish and making my own notes here because again, I think the preconception here is always like, how do I trust the end user to pitch for me internally? And now what you're saying is you don't have to, and in fact, probably you shouldn't, because you're losing all control of the sales process.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. That's 2 for 2, David. They're two killer takeaways already.
I also saw one message from Magnus in the chat, and maybe what do you think about it? Make it here. Would it completely ruin your day if I send you a 30-second voice message about why I connected? So first of all, I think we got the question as well. What do you think about voice messages? To start with, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if from my perspective, I mean, I think it's a great question, Magnus. I would say I've always had the mentality that if you think what you are going to be saying to the lead is valuable, you don't have to. I don't think you have to ask for permission. I think asking for permission is, for me, even sometimes it casts a doubt in the mind of the lead that maybe it's not valuable. It's like, you know, I've always had this thing that being as confident as you can, sometimes that confidence is infectious. Like I've had to send you this 30-second audio because I'm so sure this is why I'm doing it. So what I would say is, rather than asking why, maybe you could use that first 7 seconds to say why I'm going to be sending you a 30-second audio, rather than asking if you can. I think that tactic is a very good tactic that's been taken from cold calling. It's to avoid the hang up. But in LinkedIn, maybe we don't have that same worry. I mean, what do you think, David?
I think so. I'm also right. Like, never ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, right? I think I was always like a kid like this. So, and my mom probably hated it.
Yeah.
But I just kept continuing that like a salesperson. And then in general, voice message I really do like, honestly, because I'm somehow a curious person. And I'm always like, what is this person they're telling me? If it's really under 59 seconds, so what's the maximum under 1 minute? If it's like a 15 to 20 seconds, I listen in. If it's 59, I also hate long voice messages on WhatsApp. So Probably not listening into that, but 50 seconds to just hear the voice. And sometimes I had a super fun conversation with a prospect. Often good times for me are between 5 and 7 p.m. because then I'm less productive as well. And I look more into the LinkedIn messages. So send them probably at that time span. And it's the end of the day, so people are more receiving. So I think voice messages is part of a multi-channel. So it's part of it. Lonely won't work, but it's part of the bigger thing. Yeah.
And I can tell you, for me, I actually love voice messages as well. And to tell you how much this, I'm going to give a shout out now to Holly Allen, who at the time was working at D2, and I think she's moved on to a different. I don't think she's here, but maybe through the power of LinkedIn, she will hear about this shout out. She sent me some voice messages, and the reason why I liked it at the time and it stayed with me to this day is because also you've got to do something different. Yeah, you've got to, like you said, what's nice about a voicemail is, or a voice message under a certain % of time, is you don't know what's inside.
Yeah.
If somebody sent you that same in a text, you would scan it and you'd look for those key triggers that I want to read or don't read. So there's a little bit, but like you said, the commitment to listen has to be reasonable. It can't be like, if I had a conversation with someone lately that they saw like 7 voicemails stacked up and they were like, no, okay, I'm not ready for that. I can't commit to listening to that now. So I like the difference. And I think sometimes the unknown what's inside can get you those few clicks, those few plays.
Yeah. And just start it at the beginning for the curiosity, but then switch to text. Because what I also don't like, I don't want to have 10, 15 voice messages going back and forth.
Yes.
Nice as a hack to get your attention, but then let's rather switch to message, or then quickly booking meeting or whatsoever. But yeah, sometimes it happens if you really have a very good connection, surprisingly from the get-go, and it's a very fun conversation. Okay, but as you don't know this person, and sometimes this rare, it's more rare, I would say. So after 2 to 3 messages, I would switch to
Yeah, it's such a good point for me. And again, that's like sometimes you've got the as the salesperson, you've got to be flexible to your lead, right? And I have that sometimes. I will get a voicemail. I'm always going to reply back with text. I don't make voicemails. I don't mind listening to them. But when I reply in text and I get a voicemail again, and then I reply in text and I get a voicemail again, I kind of feel like saying, hey, listen, I'm kind of showing you now, like, I prefer text. You did a good job of getting in the door. So I think everything is experimental, but yeah, I think there's definitely enough evidence to go out there and experiment with voice messages. And I like what you said, David, which is definitely under a minute. I think that there is a little psychological thing when you can see that timer of how much is there, and picking the time of day is another one as well.
Yeah, and Magnus, you also asked if there's a preface to the voice message, if it's not permission based. Not necessarily. You just can send a voice message. Sometimes you can only send, for instance, first 8 seconds or something below 10 seconds, so that you really like, okay, this is below 10 seconds. I may want to listen into it. And then you can send the second one, but not more, which is then 15 seconds, for instance. That's possible, because then you think like, hey, why this person only sent me 8 and then 15 seconds, right? So I'm even more interested. Maybe there was a first thing and then a second thing. So maybe it's relevant, right? So I would say it like this. Or I don't know, there was a posting where you said, hey, liked your opinion about mixed post, blah, blah, blah. And then you sent a voice message. And then probably you explain why you liked the opinion in the voice message. So you're even more curious, because you know now context, but you know in the context, not really what is the message, right?
Yeah, and even though the channel can change, sometimes the rules don't change. I mean, what I think could be a disaster is don't spend the first 10 seconds of that voice message talking about the weather or talking like. Yeah. Draw them in. Sometimes I think that we pitch our best stuff last, and we should be pitching it up first. Like like you said, those relevances. Or I talked to such a person in the organization, or I saw that we have this mutual connection. Said that it would be a great idea to reach you and talk about this problem. Like get super relevant, because again, if they don't buy in over those first 7-8 seconds, they're not going to listen to the rest of the message where the rich stuff is. So just be careful of not putting all the great stuff at the end and thinking that you are being nice by taking it easy and playing it cool, when actually sometimes what people want you to do is they want you to be direct.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Mick, we did the fault, man. We talked about the weather at the beginning of the webinar.
Yes, but I'm putting that down to technical difficulties. Yeah. People are still here, and by the way, I mean this is gold, by the way. So for those who stayed, I'll make a note next time not to do too much small talking.
Exactly. Good. Let's see what we have as well. So, I mean, we talked about it a bit with the voice messages. I always like to show what person I am, what's my character. So really don't shy away to give away something about you, right? Sure, we are in professional businesses, and you may see here in the messages, we talk about purchase order, we talk about approvals, so very hard things, but then I also talk about bars in Paris, because I was just saying, hey, how are you? And then I said like a bit more answer, not like, hey, I'm good. I say, weekend was great, went to discover a new bar where they sell wine and ice cream, so odd, right? And then he says, oh, really? Fol de rol? So he knew the bar even. And then we talked a bit about Paris, and then it was, okay, send you the offer, by the way, let me know when you can sign it. So mix it a bit up. Same goes for kind of posts. I always try to interact in posts, having a fun component. Also then tag other people in the conversation in these posts to really get a bigger community and audience active. Yeah, that helps as well.
I love it. I think I've got like I love I think the tagging one really works and engaging, because I think again like that's a win-win for the person that you're talking to. You're also introducing them to new people, which a lot of people value. But the other thing I'd like to ask you this, because I really like what you said about you've got to interject your own personality. I mean, like we said, we've got to be flexible to the audience or to our leads, but up to there's limitations. And I think if I've always said this, let's say there was a post on LinkedIn within the last 12 months, and an executive was saying that this is English comments, by the way. So what it basically was that the person's mother had ordered a plumber to come over, and the plumber came over, and the plumber had come over and gone like, nice to meet you, love. I'm here to price up your sink, your sink fitters. And the mum said like, please leave. That was very unprofessional, that you called me love, or you called me honey, or you called me darling, whatever it may be. And there was a big debate on LinkedIn about what should happen. And what I mean by that is that if you do like to be humorous and a lead doesn't react well to it, that might not be a bad thing, because if they don't connect with your tone of voice now, when they become a customer, they're still your tone of voice is still going to be there. So I think it's also a case of not being afraid when 1 or 2 times out of 100 this doesn't work out, because you're not supposed to be for everybody. Would you agree? Have you maybe you've even experienced it that once or twice this didn't connect? This
definitely. Sometimes it was also first kind of where they actually were joking then with me, right? Where I was like, okay, afraid, and then no, I was just joking. So definitely, I often see, for instance, here L, right? He's the same age as me, so probably he was at a certain time from London and Paris. So I check that out sometimes to see if I can bring that joke. I think that's also important. Understanding what's your ICP, the persona you're talking to, doing some research. Not necessarily that I did here, but same age group, probably this guy could be in Paris at a certain stage. So double check first, maybe.
Yeah, I think that again, and don't be afraid if 1 or 2 people push you back, unless it's people who are really in your ICP, then you can reevaluate. But if you look at it and go, actually, was that my fault, or is it actually that I'm not building for that kind of personality? I think it's okay as well. But I think we got another question pop up in the chat, which is,
and also with the pushback, what once someone told me, that's regarding pricing now, but when 20% of your prospects or customers say you are priced too high, then probably your price is right. And I think that's the same as the outbound. When 20% say, hey, that's inappropriate, probably you found a good message, because the reason was the other.
I used to have the same approach to email marketing, where it was like, your audience will tell you when you're sending just the right amount of mail, because one person will tell you to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
And if one person says, please stop messaging me, you might be it's not the time to pull back. It's the time to find your place. But I really like it. I've got a question here in the chat, David, which is basically, are people more open to having online meetings or face-to-face meetings? And is that, I mean, we are in 2024 now. I think that's so varied, and that every business is probably doing that slightly differently. Have you? I mean, I imagine a lot of your work is to push for virtual engagement. How about face to face? Have you seen any ways of doing that?
It's increasing, I think, again, as I said, because we get so much spam and emails. We get also so many messages on LinkedIn, right? So when people prospect themselves, they kind of encounter that as well. So they look for face-to-face meetings, meaning you can approach them also for face-to-face meetings, whether it's conferences to check in, hey, are you attending there? Whether it's for meetups. So it doesn't need to be a one-to-one meeting. It can be also in a bigger context where you can meet with other people. I think that's a good start, a soft start. And then definitely I would say there's more success when you see them face-to-face. We got also one of our biggest clients face-to-face, right? So Charge was one of our clients, unicorn from India, and we got them thanks to face-to-face.
No, I think again, I think I think we sometimes need to make sure we don't confuse channel with kind of methodology, right? I mean, things can be varied, like you said, whether or not it's a time of the day, or LinkedIn versus somewhere else, or Facebook. but the methodology might be the same. So inviting people to face-to-face and stuff. But I think it's good to be varied. I think it was a great question. But David, let's keep going. I think these are really, really interesting, and I want to keep getting the most out of these as I can.
So yeah, this is a classic one actually. This is when I see negotiations are tough, and I see we're not really moving forward. Sometimes I try to get a third person in. Same like when some of my friends on WhatsApp are not answering, I try to ask another common friend to check on that person, what's going on there. And here it's the same. So I introduced to one of our clients to actually drive forward the conversation, because then the person is not only letting you down, it's letting another person down and not answering. And that often helps quite well. Ideally in the same kind of community, ICP. So maybe they can even sell to each other in the future, right? Because we also always look for new connections. And that resonates very, very well, because you see here, I kind of introduced, and then on the next page, I got back with a meeting. So somehow after a few days or even weeks, I think, of not answering. And so that's exactly what you want. Hey, I even discussed with them. So the use case resonates with us as well. Let's talk, the two of us, for 1 hour. So that always works. But yeah,
it's funny. It links in a little bit. I've heard about this trend coming towards it now, and actually, I'm a big fan of this, which is mixing leads with customers in very specifically. I know that there is a couple of tech businesses right now. What they do is they will host, for example, like a 10-person dinner, but it will be 5 prospects, 5 customers, and you just moderate. But I love this topic as well, is that it's much harder to ignore 2 people than 1. That's a great little tip as well. I really like that one.
No, definitely. So this works really, really well for us. Again, you can mix it even face to face, right? All the 3 or 5 or whatsoever in a bigger occasion. But yeah. Then
I need to make sure, David, while we're going through this, please make sure to put your hand up when Surfe is the tool that helps these happen. Please don't be afraid to say that, because the more we know how to utilize that, the better.
Yeah. So actually what we're doing with Surfe now in the next version, which we are launching in December, is we actually check, so the conference thing, what I was mentioning, we actually check if, with your CRM data, if some of your prospects, for instance, first of all, when you travel, so we check your calendar and we see you are attending in London. Then we give you the info. Hey, actually 5 people of your decision makers on your ICP are actually based in London. So maybe it could be a good occasion to meet them face to face, because often when I came back from London, then I realized, damn, true. Yeah, there was the prospect based in London. I could have texted them, right? And the same is with conferences, to check if there's some of your existing deals, ICPs, at that conference to meet. So that's, for instance, one use case we will support. But yeah, there are also other tools out there for intent and insights, because there was also a question at the beginning, I think, for tools. I mean, there's big tools like 6 Sense and all these. Then there's user gems, for instance, for job changes. There's Loan Scale, for instance, as well. We'll also give you some buying intent and signals, especially within LinkedIn. And yeah, there's a huge landscape out there, right?
You keep bringing me back to this stuff. It's all about just spending the valuable resource of time in the right way. I literally almost posted about this on LinkedIn today, that I keep seeing every so often those LinkedIn posts that are like, I'm in London, or I'm in New York. I've got a couple of slots in my calendar. Does anybody want to meet? And I get that. I understand it. But how much more powerful it is when you know you're not relying on that being in the feed of a lead at that time, but that you can be told that, hey, listen, here are 4 people. You should go tell that you are in London, you are in New York, etc. I think it's not this kind of like crossing fingers and hoping that somebody sees, and that's sometimes where I think we misunderstand LinkedIn, and we don't have to be slave to the algorithm, so to speak. And we can take so much more control. So, but I'm looking now and I see that the icebreakers. This is such a good topic where we can talk about. What have we got here?
So I mean, here's a lot of different examples, right? For me, an icebreaker can be everything and anything. So I know that some of our reps is, for instance, always asking an odd question like, what character would you be in Star Wars? Or what superhero would you be in Avengers? Left or right shoes? I was like, left or right shoes? The hell? I don't understand. So this can work sometimes as well, fun. But otherwise, there's, of course, this explanatory intro like, hey, I'm reaching out because of X, Y, Y. That's something I mix with the warm intro, right? Which I was showing at the beginning. Then there's always asking a question. For instance, I often come to prospects, hey, I'm doing customer discovery again for our product, and doing constantly exploring new users. Would you mind if you have a few minutes to talk about that with me? And then I convert them later to customers. It's actually the best conversion rate I see. Customer discovery to customers. And then like challenge solution pitch, like understanding industry challenges, show that you're an expert in that industry, but this needs to be supported by your postings that you're really an expert in that industry. Otherwise, it's not, they don't believe you probably, right? So these three are working very well, like in an overall bigger picture, if you're also the right person from your LinkedIn profile, showing the right expert. Yeah, but that works.
No, I used to say, again, I've got a lot of like old man sayings that I picked up the way, but I used to like one of the things I remember asking one of the developers in my team to sell me something before we went to an event. There's a little bit of practice, and I think he talked for 14 minutes nonstop, and he talked about everything in the product. And I said, like, listen, like the beauty and the beast of selling is that you only have to solve one problem to make a sale. The two hardest parts about that is it has to be their problem. And you have to say it in a way that they want to listen to you. So, but if you pick the right problem and you solve it, I think that's I like that one. And I think, yeah, that's an interesting one about the challenge solution. That you've got to be careful because, like you said, companies have or consumers and leads, they have this real radar. They're looking for chinks in the armor. So if you're like, I'm an expert in this and I can help you, and they go to LinkedIn and you don't post anything about it, you've lost that trust builder, and you have to start from a whole different place.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why I always put it in context. Explanatory intro is in the warm intro mixed, question based because I'm doing customer discovery, and challenge is basically because you're an industry expert and show that with your profile, right? So it needs to be as I said, the bigger picture needs to be the round picture, that these things actually make sense. Yeah.
I think you've got 3 more intros for us, so I can make sure that I've got some space because I see the questions are coming through, which is fantastic. So
so this doesn't always like work, the meeting invite intro, because it's pretty harsh, direct to the point. Sometimes people like to say yes if you offer them a free lunch, for instance, in person, then it might work, but it's the harder one, I would say. Engagement intro is basically you saw postings and you were engaging with them, or they were engaging with your postings. Works quite good, to be honest, especially if you take more people into consideration. So open a chat between 3 people, for instance, and then also that you research something about the company. It shows interest, but the research needs to be very good. So it needs to be an inside intent, thanks to different tools you leverage, right, which I mentioned at the beginning. Otherwise, it's not falling through. So here I would put the engagement-based intro as the best one,
I will get your opinion on that, and I think it kind of ties into how Surfe is developing as well, which I want to ask you about, which is it's like even with the meeting intro, there was a moment when that was so successful because what we were saying to consumers is you get to choose. Yeah, here's a link to Calendly, or here's a link to any one of the various tools on the market. You pick what time you'd like me to communicate with you. And I think that it had its time in the sun. And then, as with all tactics, all approaches, when everybody starts to do it, you have to maneuver, you have to change. And I think that's something. And I was really interested because you said like when that Surfe is on a journey now, right? From what it was when you started it to what it is today. Not only moving data from somewhere like LinkedIn to a CRM, but also now you've adapted that because the needs have changed. Would that be a good assessment?
Definitely. I mean, these are, for instance, also all templates you can use within Surfe, right? So we always come up with new templates, which are now to the Zeitgeist. I love that word. It's a German word, but it's also English, which are adapted to the Zeitgeist. And for instance, we always put it in perspective, even with kind of now our tool has been evolving, right? And we soon kind of offer these signals. Because, for instance, the meeting invite, at the moment, like we as a company, we do fundraising. So if an investor comes on LinkedIn to me, hey, I've heard you're currently fundraising, let's have a chat. Sends the Calendly invite. I look at the fund itself, when it's kind of matching, directly book a meeting. So it always needs to have a signal where it's coming from, not just out of the blue. Everything what we show needs to be connected to something, right? So I think that's important to understand.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Agnieszka from the chat wrote that, you know, she doesn't always feel the meeting invite a call to action at the end, and it's a very I do understand what she's put there, because, like, you know, we again, it's such an interesting thing from my perspective, and with working with leads and consumers, which is you have to find the balance between being polite and being valuable. So I you know, saying like one thing I think which is very difficult, which I see a lot in my LinkedIn, which is like, would you like to have a meeting? Now, yes, that's very polite, and that's maybe the right thing to do, but I've always been a fan of, like, I'd love to meet you on the 2nd or the 4th of April. Which one do you prefer? Because it's that fine line between coming over as arrogant or pushy, but on the flip side, if I say to someone, would you like to have a call with me? Well, if I'm the salesperson and I'm not sure, why would you be sure? If I don't know you want to have a call with me, why would you? So sometimes that overconfidence, it seeps through, and of course, if you can back it up, if you get on the call and what the value proposition actually wasn't true, then it's not going to work very well. But if you see a prospect and you truly believe you can help them, be confident. And it's not it's perceived as pushy. And I think this is also something that nation to nation is different. We have to, and that's, you knowing your ICP is really important. Some ICPs they don't like that. Some love it.
American, for instance, direct forward. So I'm often also like the let's chat, let's meet. I try to really give them the kind of the decision. I take the decision making from them, let's say.
Yes.
And I think that's important, because we need to make so many decisions throughout the day, right? So we are happy if some people take some decisions from us, and I think that's very easy to push.
I always use the kind of example, and then we're going to jump into some Q&A and another survey, which is, I'll ask people now, have you ever opened Netflix or Prime or whatever your streaming service is, scrolled for 20 minutes and then turned it off? Now, maybe I'm unique here, but I've done it a ton of times, especially like, and it's a metaphor for me, the fact that we don't always want choice. Sometimes choice paralyzes us. You know, do you think this would be a good for your business? Well, probably your lead hasn't even had time to think about it. So if you say this will be good for your business, and some of the things that you said, David, today, and by the way, here is a client of mine that I'm looping in that can confirm this, or I've talked. I think these are all elements of that, and I think that's a big thing. We are moving so fast on LinkedIn these days that we are more spray and pray, and we are less giving the conversations the right attention that they need. But I think there's some great examples here.
For instance, I really like these group conversations, because you could ask for a first invite, and then a second person, which you know, can then push for that invite. For instance, actually, good idea. Let's meet all the three of us. So the third person, which you actually want to reach, has actually no choice anymore. So this is also a nice way to force it. And also for Agnieszka, would the day 1 or 2 work? So here in that template, of course, it's when you have a face-to-face meeting. When you have a Calendly, I always would prefer to send a Calendly. If you have a Visio meeting, so online meeting, and tip also have different Calendlies. So where you need to kind of shorten your availability. don't open your Calendly up to 90 days or whatsoever. For some prospects, if they're a shorter deal cycle or whatsoever, limit it to 2 weeks. So really have, depending on your ICP, different calendars prepped. Yeah.
Such a, I must say, I, you do all that hard work and someone says, yeah, I'd like to have a meeting. And then you see that email notification that they booked like 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know that all the work you did, and you're still going to have to warm it. That's such a good tip. What I want to do, David, we've got a quick survey up here that I'd love to ask the audience, which is right now when you are working with leads on LinkedIn and so on, how are you getting them to your CRM? Like, I'd love to know how this happens right now, because I think that, again, sales has definitely got more challenging for many reps and many BDMs as well, included over the last 12 to 18 months. And I think we should all be looking for those ways to not only lose that manual input, but as you've said today, Surfe is a lot more than that now. It's not only about saving time, but it's also about putting you in the best possible position to work with those leads as well.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I see there's 50% doing it manually. So there's a solution, guys. Test Surfe. I like to really get your feedback on it as I'm doing customer discovery. No, it's just a joke, but I'm honestly doing always customer discovery. So it would be really interesting. We help you one click, and then everything is there. We find the emails and phones, and there's this Livespace Zap at the moment. So maybe in the future there will be full native integration for you. But if you still do it manually in Livespace, then try Surfe with the Zap first, and then we may develop something more native. Yeah.
Highly recommend it. Okay, I'm going to try to get through some of the questions that I've got lined up for you, David. And one of them, let me see if I do this right. Please let me know if you see that on the screen, which is basically, do you like the quick? I like this is a great question. Do you like the quick to respond, like the just reply yes or just reply tell me more? Like, do you think those kind of like asking for very short investment in response can work for things like LinkedIn messaging?
Yeah, it needs to be conversational still. Recently, I was in a chat where the person, it felt like he has a list of questions, because he always was looking down and prepared. And I could also talk with a robot at that a certain time, because he was like, okay. And then I felt he was just going through medic or whatever kind of method. And when you feel like this, that you're like used like a, how do you say, labor rat or something for it. It felt like this because they wanted to kind of get just the questions and the answers. It's not genuine. It's not conversational. It's less building a relationship. But you need to ask some of these questions, because you need to ask, do you have budget, right? So it needs to be really like packed in a nice conversation. But definitely you need to have a few yes and no's, but just a yes, no structure. And that's from the get-go, no. Rather more in the middle of your conversation. You can ask that here and there,
I like it, because again, one of the things that we all have to remember now in sales is that we also have to prove that we are real people, whether we like it or not. We have to be different, and that some of those questions, they just really feel AI kind of connected. But
I got a call recently from an AI, basically asking questions to me, like when I was in customer support at the Amazon, and I have a robot on the phone, but reverse, and I'm like, where have we landed?
Yeah, and that's the thing. We've got to stand out and make ourselves human a little bit. I've got another one here which is really good, and I'm again I'm being selfish with this, which is what advice or what are your thoughts if your target audience are not on LinkedIn? I have this now. We're looking at blue collar in a couple of areas as well, and LinkedIn is not. It's not that they are not there, but it's not their favorite place to be. Is that something that Surfe is investigating or you assist with?
Yeah, so that's exactly the problem some of our customers faced, and we really couldn't help, right? Because our database was limited to LinkedIn at the beginning, but now we have 20 databases included, and with the new product launch in December. We actually included Google Maps, for instance, where you can find like even small liquor stores. So when it's about list building, when you ask here about finding like leads, prospects, list building accounts, then definitely yes. So we support Google Maps data, some verticalized kind of industry data as well. For instance, we were recently talking with a company that helps industrial companies for purchasing departments. Industrial companies are sometimes less on LinkedIn. So yeah, we have the databases to provide you with data for this list building and also with the insights. But yeah, if it's about LinkedIn as a network and then finding other networks, there are specific networks out there, like Power Us, for instance, which is really about blue collar, I think, like similar LinkedIn style. So this could work for you as well. Try to find if there is a network and if a lot of people are on it, to then basically reach out there, right? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take one last question, and then in the meantime, please let people know where to find you. Where can people go learn more about you and Surfe? Because I've got questions and questions, and I probably won't get them all in today's webinar. But in the meantime, a great question from Piotr, and I think that's the thing as well, which is, do you see kind of ups and downs based on success rates that are more like LinkedIn orientated? That, you know, LinkedIn changed their policies or things like that. He specifically wrote that, you know, do you see a decrease in efficiency over the last number of months? But I'm wondering in general if we're a little bit slave to LinkedIn and their approaches.
So yeah, like on company pages, for instance, engagement on company posts and pages, we've really recently seen there's a downturn. On the profiles, how we often use LinkedIn is, in some markets, for instance, to perform a cold call, you need to have a legitimate interest. German market, for instance, right? I don't know if the Polish market is the same, but what we do is we try to connect on LinkedIn. That means there is a gray area where you had a business to business kind of interest, because LinkedIn is business to business, and then we cold call them. And then we kind of check the legitimate interest. And that's what we do, for instance, when we see there's too much spam on LinkedIn and we need to switch to another channel. That's how we do it and still use LinkedIn for that first legitimate interest. And then otherwise, connecting without the first connection message, because people are more curious why this person came to me, which often sees better conversion rates. As I said, use the warm intro approach, do LinkedIn groups, for instance, group chats. Don't use the examples we have shown. Be more kind of interesting and curious, and engage with the posts. A lot of people forget about engaging with posts. That's the best thing you can actually do, and then follow up with a message. And when you yourself are posting, first see if you actually have the right network for these posts, meaning is your network your ICP? Then are your posts relevant for these ICPs? Post a lot within 4 to 6 weeks after you added someone in that ICP, then reach out, because then probably in their subconscious, you already are there because they've read some posts about you, and then the conversion is also higher. So I wouldn't say it's with all the channels. There's no channel that we still are required on these channels, and we require outbound. It's just about how can you kind of upscale and be better than the rest, especially when there's a lot of volume in the market, right?
I think that's the nice thing about it, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. I think anybody who will post on LinkedIn, they have a motive. So if you're going to drop them a like, if you're going to comment, and it's going to be authentic, and you're going to really invest yourself into asking about the topic, they're going to engage back in you, or they're going to, like you said, that name's going to stick in their mind because they remember. And that's the power of LinkedIn, I think, is that you're not taking the risk that you are on Facebook. People are on Facebook for various different reasons. They're on other platforms for various different reasons. LinkedIn, through whatever way they've done it, they've managed that we all still kind of know why we are there, and we all feel comfortable with why we're there. And I think it's very hard for me to still understand, and this is me being closed off, of course, which is I think every potential business should be having an effect on there. I think there's so much power on LinkedIn, and like I said, I hopefully now we got enough value that I can say yes. I also would love any Livespace user you can connect. with Surfe. If you haven't picked a CRM yet, we'd love to talk to you as well. But that's not the reason for today. Today was to get you some really good tips that you can start using, and that they can really have immediate effects on your conversion and the efforts that you're putting in these places. And David, I have no doubts that you've brought that today. So I really appreciate the time you've put into it.
Likewise, thanks a lot, Mick. Really enjoyed it. And as said, let's connect on LinkedIn. I just shared my profile here. I'm sharing a lot of first-time founder, first-time sales, etc. Advice, failures as well, which we all go through, but it's also learning. And no bullshit, just raw, I would say. And hopefully, we get in touch there and exchange. And thanks a lot for you and Livespace to have that chat today.
I feel it's the tip of your knowledge, really, David. I think there's so much more to get. So, like, I'd love to catch up in the future and see how things have changed or they've stayed the same. But again, to everybody, thank you so much for joining. Please, I highly recommend go and connect with David. Go check out Surfe, and keep the conversation going. And we'll see you soon. Yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
See you. What is it in Polish?
Do widzenia.
Do widzenia.
Someone's gonna go. No, it's not, Mick. Okay. My Polish is poor, but I'm taking it. Do widzenia will work for today, I think. Sure. So yeah.
Otherwise, tschüss, bis bald. See you soon, guys, and have a lovely evening and snowy season if you are having some snow as well.
Perfect. Thanks, David. All the best.
Bye bye. Likewise. Ciao ciao.